Now we're going to adjust the radio. Make sure that 2 of the motor leads are unplugged so that it doesn't start up accident, because we're going to be using the pitch or the throttle stick to adjust the pitch. This radio has 5 different modes. To get into the mode adjustment, you unlock it, this one, and then you flip the switch, the mode switch, to get from airplane, V tail airplane, helicopter mechanical mixing or 90-degree swash, helicopter 120-degree swash CCPM, and then inverted of that. We want inverted just because that's the way the servos are set up. Now you've got 2 dials. The left one is a pitch, the right one's a PLT, or a pitch limit trim. The pitch is the bottom point of the normal curve, and the PLT, pitch limit travel, or whatever you want to call it, is the slope of the curve. So if you crank that up, you want it positive 11. But you've got to make sure this one is at -5 first. So all we got to do is look at the pitch gauge, throw that at the bottom, and then I've set the pitch gauge to -5 already. All you've got to do is adjust the dial until it lines up with the flybar. So this is too low, this is too high. You want it right in the middle. You want it parallel with the flybar. Now you can leave that left dial. Now you're going to want to put the stick all the way up. Set this to 11. And then crank the dial up. And you can see the flybar weights are pretty much lined up with the top of that. So now we've got 11 degrees of pitch. Now you flip the lock switch. And that setting is set, so you can change the dials and it won't do anything. Those are the only 2 settings that are available on this radio. The rest are factory preset. So when you flip it to idle up, your pitch range is set. You can't adjust this. Right now, this dual rate is set to 0, so there is no dual rates on. If you apply the dual rates, they'll reduce your range by your stick responses, your rudder and cyclic responses. Watch. If I reduce it, it throws it back a bit. So now it's not as aggressive. So in 3D, you'll want this dual rate off. When you're flying around, you don't want to do anything crazy. Keep it on down. This switch here is the heading hold and rate hold modes for the gyro. You're going to want head hold mode on, so keep this up at all times. The only time you're going to want to put it down is for adjustments, and it's just for adjustments, setting the servo to the middle. As you see, in rate hold, the servo stays right in the middle, and it moves proportional to how much your stick moves. It's a pretty quick servo. Well, as fast as H at 65 HPs anyways. Now in heading hold mode, if you hold it to the right or the left, it keeps on moving. It's just traveling now because I've been moving it around too much. If you unplug it, keep heading hold mode on, plug it back in. Give it some time to initialize. When the gyro goes from red to blue, it means it's ready to move. Now watch the gyro. Now, if you want to go left, it's going to keep going left until it gets some movement. Once it gets that movement, it's going to stop adding pitch. So with this, if you want to turn a little bit, it'll keep trying to turn the helicopter because you're giving it a rate of rotation. If it's not getting that rate of rotation, it's going to keep adding pitch until it does. See, it thinks it's held the helicopter steady right there. It thinks that's the pitch it requires to hold the helicopter still. So it keeps it there. Rate hold. You hear the servo wiggling it. It just stops quick movements, but it still allows drift. And that's it for the radio. You've got dual rates, mode switch. For trims, you're going to want your throttle trim right in the center. This trim here, you're never going to want to use in head hold mode because it's going to think you want a slight input and the servo is going to keep on moving that direction. So you don't want to touch that. These two you could probably tape over so you never move them. But your swash plate, your forward, backward cyclic, and your left-right cyclic are not going to want to change. Well, they're going to want to change a lot, so you can leave these ones untaped, and then during flights, during hover, you can adjust it to trim it out so that you can go hands-free and it still hovers. You just want to make sure that the voltage stays above 9.6. If it gets to 9.6, I'd recharge the batteries. Even before that, you should play it safe. And the timer allows you to keep an eye on how long you've been flying for. Most flights should be about 6 minutes. If you're pushing it past 6 minutes, you're draining the battery to a point where it's going to damage it. And in the long run, you won't be able to recharge so many times. So try to limit it to 80% battery capacity. That'll allow you to recharge your batteries hundreds of times, and it'll maintain its strength. You're always going to have the radio on while the helicopter's plugged in. So unplug the helicopter first and then turn off the radio. And when you want to power up, make sure the radio is on first and then plug in the helicopter. And that's about all there is for this radio. Another electronics setup point, the gyro. I guess we'll go over the gyro in a whole nother section. I didn't go over gyro setup. I have to make a gyro setup video.